On Christmas Eve 2008, Tesla had about 3 hours of funding left. Not 3 months, not 3 weeks. 3 hours. Every investor had said no. The banks were closed for Christmas, and Elon Musk was personally out of money. If that wire transfer hadn't gone through, there is no Model S, no Gigafactory, no Cybertruck, no Tesla at all. And the twist? The money that saved Tesla that night almost wasn't legal. Stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how Tesla survived and why the story you've been told is incomplete. This channel has spent weeks in SEC filings, court documents, and first-hand accounts to reconstruct that night minute by minute. But to understand Christmas Eve, we have to go back to the beginning. Because Tesla's death wish started long before 2008. Most people think Elon Musk founded Tesla. He didn't. He almost killed it before he even joined. Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning founded Tesla Motors in 2003. Their pitch was simple: an electric sports car that didn't suck. Musk came in as the lead investor in 2004, putting in $6.5 million of his own money. He became chairman, not CEO. Chairman. The Roadster was supposed to cost $25 million to develop and launch by 2006. Both numbers were fantasy. The transmission alone nearly sank them. Tesla needed a 2-speed gearbox that simply didn't exist for an electric motor at that torque level. They burned through 2 transmission suppliers. Each failure cost months and millions. The launch date slipped from 2006 to 2007 to 2008. But here's where it gets interesting. The transmission crisis wasn't even the biggest problem. Tesla's internal estimate of the Roadster's cost had been catastrophically wrong. The actual cost to build each car was more than double the original projection. Every Roadster Tesla sold was being sold at a loss. The faster they sold cars, the faster they were dying. By late 2007, the board had seen enough. Eberhard was out as CEO. Tesla had burned through over $100 million. Musk stepped up as CEO in October 2008. He inherited a company that was, by every financial measure, already dying. And then the global economy collapsed. The 2008 financial crisis hit exactly as Tesla needed to raise its biggest funding round yet. The world's money was frozen. Tesla needed $40 million just to survive into 2009, and the clock was running out fast. What nobody talks about is how close the investors actually were to saying yes, before they all said no. Tesla had been in serious talks with a German automaker, a strategic partnership that would have solved everything. Those talks collapsed in September 2008. The same month Lehman Brothers collapsed, the worst possible timing in corporate history. Musk spent October and November calling everyone he knew. Venture firms, private equity, old contacts from PayPal. Every single one said no. It wasn't that they didn't believe in electric cars. Nobody was investing in anything in late 2008. Tesla had a Series E round that needed to close at $40 million. By December, they had raised almost nothing. Musk was simultaneously running SpaceX, which had just had its 3rd consecutive rocket failure in August. His personal finances were stretched to the breaking point. He had already poured his PayPal fortune into both companies. He later admitted he was borrowing money from friends just to pay rent. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of Tesla's own board members had privately started preparing for liquidation. They weren't just giving up on the round. They were discussing how to wind down the company in an orderly way without Musk knowing. December arrived. Tesla's runway was measured in days. Payroll was due. Suppliers were calling. Lawyers were circling. Musk made a desperate call to existing investors, people who had already put money into Tesla and watched it nearly vanish. His pitch was almost surreal. I know you've already lost a lot. I need you to put in more. Tonight. I saved the most important part for right here. Because what Musk did next crossed a line, and he knew it. Here's what almost no one in the mainstream Tesla narrative acknowledges. Musk structured that emergency round in a way that existing investors later called coercive. The terms were structured so that investors who didn't participate in the new round would see their existing shares heavily diluted. In plain English, pay up now or lose most of what you already have. It was a gun to the head of every existing investor. Eberhard, Tesla's original founder, already ousted, later sued Musk over this round. The lawsuit alleged Musk deliberately froze him out. The suit was settled out of court. The terms were sealed. We still don't know what Musk paid to make it disappear. But back to Christmas Eve. Because regardless of the legal questions, the money had to actually move. And the banks were closed. Standard wire transfers required bank processing. Christmas Eve was a half day. The window was closing by the hour. Musk later described calling investors personally, some of them friends, and pleading for them to initiate the transfers before the cutoff. And here is the midpoint twist, the thing that reframes everything you think you know about who saved Tesla. The largest single check that came in that night, the one that actually put the round over the threshold, came from Musk himself. He put in $20 million of his own money he had borrowed, on Christmas Eve, while broke. That money was borrowed against his future earnings. If Tesla failed, he would be not just broke, he'd be in debt for years. The narrative we usually hear is Musk saved Tesla. What we don't hear is that he saved it with money that wasn't fully his yet, and by squeezing investors who had no real choice. Both things are true at once. It was an act of extraordinary personal courage, and it bent the rules of how fundraising is supposed to work. The round closed at roughly 11 p.m. on December 24, 2008. The wire confirmations came through just before midnight. Tesla had survived, but only barely. And the fight to actually become a real company was just beginning. What nobody talks about is how differently Tesla behaved after Christmas Eve. The near-death experience changed everything about how Musk ran the company. Within months, Tesla secured a $465 million loan from the U.S. Department of Energy, the same government that had ignored them for years. Christmas Eve had bought them just enough time, just enough credibility, just enough runway to get that government check. In 2010, Tesla went public. The first American car company to IPO since Ford in 1956. The stock opened at 17. If you bought that IPO and held, you've seen returns of over 10,000%. Every dollar became 100. The Model S launched in 2012. It won Motor Trend Car of the Year, the first electric vehicle to ever win that award. And SpaceX? The Falcon 1 succeeded on its fourth launch in September 2008, 3 months before Christmas Eve. That success gave Musk just enough confidence to keep going. Musk has said that 2008 was the worst year of his life. Not because of the money, because he genuinely didn't know if either company would survive. He described crying on Christmas Day 2008, not from relief that it worked, but from exhaustion that it had nearly failed. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is what I promised you at the start. The story you know is only half the truth. Every biography, every documentary, frames Christmas Eve 2008 as pure triumph of will. One man against the odds. What they leave out. The founders who were pushed aside, the investors who felt coerced, and the legal battles that followed. Tesla exists today because of extraordinary risk, extraordinary luck, and a funding mechanism that had real victims. All three things are true. The EV revolution that followed, the gigafactories, the supercharger network, the competitors it forced into existence. All of it traces back to one wire transfer on Christmas Eve. If you've made it this far, you now know the real story. Not the myth, the actual complicated human story of how Tesla survived. If this kind of deep dive storytelling is what you're here for, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it's how you tell us to keep making them. Let's recap. Tesla's first car was a financial disaster. The 2008 crash arrived at the worst possible moment. Every outside investor said no. Musk borrowed money he didn't have, structured a round that squeezed his own investors, and wired $20 million in on Christmas Eve. Tesla survived by hours, not days, hours. And that survival gave us the EV world we live in today. Hit like if this changed how you think about Tesla's origin story. It genuinely helps more people find this kind of content. Next video. The story of what happened to Martin Eberhard, the founder who built Tesla and watched Musk erase him from the history books.